So we don't know if the ask isn't made. Right. And it's the same thing for those who have another language as their primary. Oh my goodness, I have an app on my phone where I could turn it around. So as I speak English, it translated in the next language. And not only do they hear it, they can also see as I'm speaking into my phone. And so that also helped with the communication gap. So there's so many ways, but patients get to be so docile and very shy and afraid. Oh, but as a doctor, I don't want. It's like, no, but it's you, it's your body, you're in charge. Help us help you.
Welcome to Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast, where we empower caregivers through expert conversations, practical guidance, and stories of hope. Today's episode is titled The Questions Every Caregiver Should Ask a Cancer Doctor. A cancer diagnosis can leave families feeling overwhelmed, uncertain, and unsure of what questions to ask next. That's why we're honored to welcome Dr. Camille M. Williams, also known as Queen, a board-certified radiation oncologist, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, and founder of Questions for Cancer Doctors. With more than 2 decades of experience caring for cancer patients in both military and civilian medicine, Dr. Williams has dedicated her career to helping patients, caregivers, veterans, and military families make informed decisions with confidence. From leading radiation oncology programs within the Department of Defense to advocating for veterans affected by cancer and toxic exposures, she brings a unique combination of medical expertise, leadership, and heartfelt compassion. If you or someone you love is facing cancer, this conversation will equip you with the knowledge, confidence, and questions that can make all the difference. Let's get into it. Welcome, Dr. C.M. Williams. How are you today?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on to Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast as a guest to discuss this very important topic that we have on today. Podcast family, I'm incredibly excited and delighted to have Dr. C.M. Williams on. Today's episode is entitled The Questions Every Caregiver Should Ask a Cancer Doctor. So, with that said, we're just going to, how I do, we're going to jump right into it. Please, Dr. C.M. Williams, tell me about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, thanks for having me on your podcast. And, I always like to start by saying that the road to where I am or the road to success or wherever someone may be is never really a straight one, right? So I grew up in Jamaica, and after graduating high school, and shout out to Merle Grove High School in Jamaica, and after graduating, I immigrated to the United States, and I came in Florida. And so when I got there, it wasn't quite what I dreamt of it, right? Because the opportunity wasn't quite there yet. I'm fresh out of high school. I graduated early. We're on the British system. So I finished high school around 16 years old or so. And so opportunities weren't really available then. And back then they had the commercial, be all you can be, join the army. And I said, you know what? I don't feel like I'm being all I'm being right now. So let me go ahead. I called the recruiter and I joined the military. I enlisted at that time as a nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare. So hello to all my colleagues out there that's military and veteran. I wear this little mosquito wing because that's E2. When I first joined the military, I had no rank. I was E1. And they have no representation for that. Then shortly after that, I got promoted to E2. I gained my little, what they call mosquito wings. Got out of the military after 4 years with my attitude, right? I don't need to be in the military. I'm going to college. Just, got my GI Bill. But then I got to college. I went to Rutgers University and I realized I needed more money. This is not, GI Bill isn't enough. So I joined up with ROTC. And while I was there, I was on the track team, and I was surrounded by ladies who were pre-med and who were doing a lot of stuff in the sciences. And I was I was majoring at the time in biochemistry, and I really didn't have a path toward medicine at the time. But, we're on the track team, we're all talking similar classes. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I could do this. This would be a great opportunity. So, with the help of my friends and my friends' parents, because again, I was in America. A lot of my family was spread out throughout the Caribbean or in the UK or Canada. So I was pretty much alone, right? My dad was there, but no one was in the military. No one went to college. I'm the first for just about everything. So I did the whole pre-med stuff, and I wrote to all these medical school digital essay, and I got accepted. And I always tell when I'm mentoring others that you only need acceptance to one medical school. You may put in for multiple, but you can only go to one. And at the time, I didn't know a lot about schools or anything because I didn't grow up here. But I did get accepted to the Uniformed Service University of the Health Sciences. And the idea of being paid to learn, as broke as I was back then, I was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. So the catch was that if you go to Uniformed Services Medical School, they call it USUS, then you'd have to serve in the military for 7 years. But it's just a matter of giving service, but you'll still be getting paid and stuff while you're in the uniform. So I thought that was great. So I went to Maryland and I went to medical school there. And that came, that went, you blink and time's gone. And so after medical school, I had to go back into the military. But here's the thing. Everyone gets to choose what specialty they think they want to get into based on your grades, etc. And because I was athletic, I was on a track team, I thought I'd do sports medicine, orthopedic surgery, something that has to do with athletics. And did a few surgical rotation, and I'm just like, oh no, that's not for me. And then I was on my urology rotation, and I was with a family at the time. And as a medical student, we were responsible for answering questions and educating the family. And so I had to leave for didactics to go to lectures. And when I came back within a day or two or so, the family that I was with on the urology team, the patient had markings all over the body. And I was like, what happened while I was gone? I think I had exams and stuff. And found out that the patient had a history of kidney stones. So they just thought maybe it was kidney stones. No, it was not. Turned out that the patient had kidney cancer. And they removed this large kidney at the time, and it had metastasized to the spine and the bones. And so the markings I saw externally were radiation markings to set up for radiation palliative treatment. At the time, I knew nothing about what radiation was. And when I was enlisted in the military, I was a nuclear, biological, and chemical war, specialist. So I knew something about radiation, but I didn't know there was a good part to radiation. So the family was asking me questions. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, what is this? What? So in the process of learning about what radiation was, everything else fell by the wayside, right? It's like radiation or bust. I don't want anything else. So we had 3 choices. My 3 choices were radiation oncology, and radiation oncology. That's how certain I was that this is the field I wanted to go in. And so I was blessed that at the time, they had their residency at Walter Reed and at Navy Bethesda and with NCI, the National Cancer Institute, and across the street. But they did not have anything open for Army. And so I was allowed to find my own residence position in the civilian sector. And so I started writing a letter, hey, free labor here. You don't have to pay me. Military's already paid me. I just need to learn. So I end up going to Northwestern in Chicago, Illinois. So then I did that, went back in the military where I was then serving as a radiation oncologist. So now I'm an officer. So I went from the enlisted to the officer and work up through the ranks. I'm going to pause there. That's a long history.
Thank you so much for sharing your history with us, and thank you so much for your service.
Honor to serve. It was an honor to serve.
That's a very interesting background that you have. Thinking about that and everything that you've been able to accomplish, did you just kind of go with the flow, or did you actually have end goal in mind as you started off on your journey?
No, actually, I'm a very prayerful person. And growing up, I used to read a lot, right? I'm in Jamaica. there wasn't the internet. I know folks can't imagine it, but I remember if I had to go to make a call to my dad, I had to walk like a mile and a half to the phone company where there was a phone booth on the outside. So there was a big chasm, if you will, between the United States and what's happening in other countries. And so my thing was all about reading. I would explore mentally of all the wonderful places that exist and the places that I would like to visit. And I learned a lot about character building, like with Aesop fables. I read the Bible. We grew up in church. And so there wasn't any real plan. All I knew at the time is that I wanted to be able to help others. And then when I came to America, I really just randomly just I knew that I didn't see myself working at certain level. I wanted more. I came here for more, and where I was, I felt if I stayed, I would get in trouble, right? And so I was like, okay, do I join the police force or do I join the army? I need structure. Not everyone is like that, but for me, I needed structure. And so to answer your question, there was nothing but for the grace of God. No one in my family went to college. No one in my family was in the military. So I was the first for a lot of things, and I don't take that for granted. And I'm a big believer in that the people you surround yourself with will have an influence on what you eventually become. And because I was prayerful, and I would say to some extent, a little fearful and apprehensive because I'm stepping out into this new world and I have no idea. But one of the things I'm not afraid to try new things, right? So I was willing to try the military. I was like, okay, yeah, I like taking care of people. Maybe I could do this. I might. And then there's a question: am I good at it? I had no examples, no footprints to follow at the time. So it really was prayerfully just taking the step and just see what happens. Sometimes you have to live that way because no one is promised tomorrow. No one really knows. We try to predict. And if nothing else, this job and this specialty has taught me is we really don't know. We don't know what tomorrow holds.
That's very true. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I resonate with that, with everything
Mhm,
that you said, because like yourself, I'm also considered first generation, especially on
mhm,
my mother's side. From my grandmother on down, I am the first to attend and graduate from the university, first to enter the
mhm.
corporate realm, first to many things. Even right
Yeah.
now, new construction on my home that I
Mhm.
actually a gift I got from my mother. It was for her.
Oh.
I resonate with you. And when you don't have someone specifically to tell you exactly which way to go, for me, I focus on the inside, and that on
Mhm.
the inside is where the Holy Spirit resides for me, my spirituality and my religion to help guide me. So,
Yes.
yeah, pretty powerful. Thank you for sharing that. It's good to hear that you were able to accomplish everything you've been able to accomplish. Yeah.
Yes, and one thing I want folks to know, when I was in Maryland, I did something called Our Kids First, where I tried to, it was a nonprofit organization where for 5 years, I was able to get into the school system for eighth graders, and it was a career fair to say, hey, you could do anything you want to do. You just have to sometimes have that purpose, right? So we had people, it was very well supported. So we had folks like from NASA, from hotels, I can say Marriott Hotel, they came out from the Volvo car folks. We had folks who were business owner from pesticides. We had HVAC. We had the police. We had Canaan. So just a plethora. And what I use as an example is that when I was in high school initially, I was considered like a jock. I just went to school to have fun. And my grades reflected it, right? Until my dad came to Jamaica and said, well, if you want to get to America, your teachers think you have potential. You have to pass these many exams. Because there was something called the Common Entrance Exam, a CXC, which is sort of equivalent to maybe SATs, but it was subject oriented. And so I planned on taking 5 subjects, and the teacher's like, oh, no, she's better. She could do it. And I'm like, have you not seen my grades? Like I have D's and F's and then A's, and I was all over the place. And you could see I did well in stuff I like. And I was like, whatever. But they had me take 8 subjects. And I tell you, for the last 6 months of school, I was drinking coffee and studying because, like, oh, I got to get to America, right? Now I have a goal. Now I have a purpose. Now I have something I truly want. And I did that exam and I passed 7 of the 8 subjects. Now, it wasn't that I failed, it was French and conjugation just had me. So I got a C. And so everything else were A and B and 1 C in French. Now, I didn't know I had that potential in me, but then that carrot, right, was like, okay, if you want to come. And I believe that a lot of our children today, they're lost and they feel like they have to do X or they have to do Y. And so I try to say, okay, what's your personality? What do you enjoy? What is it? What is it that you want to give back? Because the secret sauce in receiving is giving. So that's one of the things I really enjoy is taking my life, my blueprint, if you will, to say, hey, I came from nothing. I was running up and down barefoot in Jamaica, racing around and stealing sugarcane and mangoes as I passed my neighbors. And here I am. Oh, Lieutenant Colonel retired. Doctor. It's like, no, I'm just human like you. I just happen to have a different belief system and followed a different trajectory. But for the grace of God, there goes I, right?
That's a beautiful wisdom that you just shared with the podcast family. I'm really huge on that. I believe
Mhm.
that we receive what we give. And if you
Yes,
don't like what you have been receiving, the question is, what have you been giving?
absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, I'm really big on that. Thank you so much for sharing. So, after your schooling and everything that you've done, you entered within the consultation space.
Yes, yes.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, sure. So, as a radiation oncologist, again, I did track Jamaica, big up with track stars. We're all about track. So, in the radiation and in the cancer section, I always see radiation oncologist as the anchor leg. That said, meaning whenever a patient is diagnosed with cancer, we don't always see them in the beginning, right? If the institution is large enough and they have what's called a multidisciplinary tumor board, which means they'll see all of the specialists before they actually start treatment. So they'll see the surgeon, they'll see the medical oncologist, they'll see the radiation oncologist, they'll see nutrition, they'll see everyone that has something to do with their upcoming care before they actually start treatments. If they do that, then I could meet them, but that's very rare and far in between. And so I was meeting patients who had no idea what they're being treated for. So, for example, if they had breast cancer and they're told, oh, I have triple negative breast cancer, they don't know what that means or what are receptors and as physicians, sometimes they mean, but then they're busy and they'll just use these terminology with assumptions that patients understand. And if they try to break it down, sometimes not enough. Oh, receptors are stuff that's on cells. Okay, so what does that mean? Then your cells doesn't have those receptors. Okay, what does that mean for me? So they don't take the time to break it down enough where patients understand. And so the frustration started when the patients would come to me, the anchor leg for the radiation, and they had no idea what was going on before. And I've been accused that I have something written on my forehead where folks are comfortable talking to me about whatever. And they'll sit. And so 45 minutes may turn into an hour and a half because I had to go back and try to explain. The other thing is because I am a Black doctor, a lot of patients who are of the African origin, I'll put it that way, they're not used to seeing someone like myself in this space. And so they are more open, they're more likely to be more expressive. They'll share their concerns more. And so I got into advocacy and putting out videos, and then I had to stop. But because I want folks to be educated and be armed with information, because you're not always going to get a physician like me, but that doesn't mean they're not there to serve you. You just have to know the questions to ask. You have to know how to slow things down a bit. And so I got into the consultation space after I got out of the military and after I've done some working in private practice because I felt as though I still wasn't reaching the folks that I need to reach. And I tried doing webinars. I did podcasts for a while and I stopped that. And it's okay, how am I going to do this, Lord? What do I need to do? So I've gotten into some space. I've worked, and it's funny. I went to see my primary doctor today and literally was asked if I could work with their practice in being available to anyone that has questions about cancer. And this was because of an incident that occurred just last week where someone had a surgery, lumpectomy of breasts, and the dehisce, meaning the suture, came apart. And the person was frightened, didn't know what to do. And she thought of me. And I was like, I just moved here. But again, I spoke with her. And the thing she wanted to know, and we're going to be collaborating now that this is my home. Being the military, moved around. Now I'm in Georgia. This is my home. Yay, putting down roots. I'm now able to work out into the community, and that's what we're planning to do, as well as do something private for those who want the one-to-one. But the issue was, as she was sharing, was that the patient did not know if they did something wrong or if it's something that they missed, and wasn't able to get back to see that person right then and there. So they went to the wound clinic, et cetera, et cetera. But then it was like, oh, but the pamphlet was given, the information was in that stack. And I said to her, nobody reads anymore. And so I do have some videos that I put together as well. So it's an ongoing thing where people are looking for information and they may find some stuff with AI, but the more you find, the more deeper you go and the less you really know, and it can become overwhelming. And so it's a space in which I'm trying still to maneuver, to be there for those who want the one-on-one, but also be in a space where I can collaborate with other physicians and be available to do a consultation for them or within their clinic, or work some kind of collaboration stuff out. So I am now doing that separately, or do weekly cancer survivors type stuff. So we're in the process of trying to collaborate stuff, but that literally just happened. So there's a need. There's
There's a huge need. And to your point, thinking about people overall and how comfortable people are with AI, there are a lot of people that are not very comfortable with AI. They're still using Google to try to understand what's going on with their health after receiving a diagnosis. And I used to say, one of my jokes I used to share with my friends is that I have a Google MD. Using Google to try to look up what you've been diagnosed with at times, depending, can really send you off of a cliff. You know,
absolutely.
have you feeling like you're about to die when you just
Hmm.
have sinuses and you don't know. I've been there. And I'm like, oh
Yes.
my God, this is so serious. Is something happening with my brain? And it was because I took a deep dive on
Mhm.
Google, and that wasn't the answer either. So being able to have a person that you can talk to that's knowledgeable, that has a background in everything that you have, or you can have a conversation with them, it means everything. Cat's family, what I've come to learn is when I was dealing with the cancer diagnosis that my mother had, which was stage 4 breast cancer, trying to wrap my mind around and trying to understand, talking with doctors, etc. I did a lot of research on my own. But my mother didn't do, she's from a different time period. She didn't do that type of research. But she had questions. So having someone there that can just talk to you and use the terminology that the majority of us have that do not have a
Mhm.
medical degree is a blessing, and it's a
Mhm.
rarity. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, and I think some folks laugh at me sometimes because I absolutely love to use, whenever I'm teaching, the car as an analogy, right? Is some folks take better care of their car than they do their bodies, right? They'll change your oil, they'll rotate the tires, but yet you won't go in to see the doctor once a year just to make sure. You won't do your mammogram, or you won't do your lung screening, or whatever it is you won't do your colonoscopies. Come on now, this is something that you can do for you. And so I use the car analogy in describing things, and we are much more complicated than a vehicle. So if you're going to take care of a vehicle and change it, well, why not do the same for your body? And I'll use that, or whatever. One of the gift I has to be able to use someone's job to explain whatever situation it is that they're going through with the cancer. So the more challenging one was an accounting. But at the same time, I was able to use that to say, okay, this is what radiation is, or I simplify it. It's, okay, the sun. I'm just concentrating the sun to point at this tumor, and I'm going to shrink it. If the tumor is still there, it's going to be shrank. So I'm taking a grape to a raisin, right? Somebody could relate to a grape to a raisin. That's what I'm doing. But if no matter where I put, the grape is going to be next to something. So even though I'm pointing at the grape and the grape is shrinking to a raisin, the beam may still hit whatever is close by. So if it's in a fruit basket and there's a banana there and an apple there, some of the lower dose may sprinkle over to the banana. The banana may get brown, and I use that to talk about side effects from radiation. So I try to break it down because my parents, they have a high school education, and they'll put you in your place all the time. You know how those Jamaicans are. So if I can't explain stuff to them, and they still see me as their little girl, or my dad does at least. So and when I get into it, it's such an honor to be able to serve in that capacity, because I know from whence I came and I know what my parents went through. So it's almost like a little challenge. Oh, how can I explain this? This person works at a grocery store as a clergy. Okay, how can I use this to break it down in their job so that they understand how this radiation works?
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Thinking about the title of this episode today and questions that every caregiver should ask a cancer doctor, what are some of the questions that should be asked?
Okay, now, we've been hitting on breast cancer, right? But there are all sorts of different cancers. And as a radiation oncologist, I focus on what's called solid tumors. So I wouldn't be doing leukemia or, CMLs or anything of that sort. I do more pancreatic cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, prostate, breast, etc. So when it comes to cancer, and I had to put this in a timeline. So I graduated medical school in 2003. Seems like yesterday, but so much has changed since then, right? And so when someone is newly diagnosed with cancer, what I've always noticed is that based on the time frame, a lot of those folks were very private. Right. And the first thing is, once you hear the cancer or the C word, is you need to think, besides telling God, because God already knows, who do I know that I can trust with this information? Because we are now plagued in an epidemic of loneliness where folks do not connect like they used to. So I've had patients who they didn't have any family members, or if they did, they were far away and they didn't have any friends. All their friends were on social media, and you need someone in person to be with you during these times. So one of the first thing is, when you have a diagnosis such as cancer, you're going to need, before you even get to the appointment, you're going to need a second set of ears. Never go to any of these appointments alone. But Talisa, if you tell me something, or if you're talking and there's a room full of people, I'm going to hear something different from what someone else may hear or take from it. And so in this setting, when you go to your oncologist, you may have an hour and they're going to be going through a whole lot of stuff. You need a scribe, you need someone with you, you need to be as prepared as much as you can be. But the first thing is, don't go to these appointments alone. That's number one. The second thing is, once you get to these appointments, the doctor, they're there for you. Without you, we don't have a job. We're there for you. So you need to talk to or communicate to your oncologist to say, okay, doctor, I don't know anything about this. So I'm going to ask you, please, to slow down and use things in layman terms as much as possible. Is it okay? And I always say that you need to ask, but I don't think it's as beneficial. But I've asked people have asked me, oh, Dr. Williams, can I record this? Sure. But chances are, even if you go back and listen, it's different, right? So if you would like to record it, you can ask, may I record this? And you can record it, but you need someone there to write the question down. You need to know about you need someone there with you. And you need to ask the doctor, please, to slow down and try to break this down as simple as possible. So I always tell my folks, say, okay, I'm an 8th grader. Make me understand. That's how I used to train my residents. I'm an eighth grader. I don't understand what you're saying. So that's the second thing. The third thing, verbal is good, but there's nothing like pictures. So whenever I'm talking to my patients, I can't draw. I still do stick figures. I think that's one of the things I almost fail in school. I do. Thank goodness for AI and all those other things that create all these beautiful pictures for me, because I don't have art in me. So I always though have anatomic images, the skeleton, inside. The third thing, ask the doctor to show you where the cancer is located. Where did it spread to, if anything, and what will the treatment affect? So now we go from before you get to your appointment, the first thing when you get into the appointment and talking to your doctor, and then when you're communicating further, you want to know where this is. Did it spread anywhere else? What are some of the treatment side effects? If it's radiation, well, what is it close to? If it spread somewhere, what does that mean for me, right? And so that's just the beginning, and it gets deeper after that. So that's just the start. And a lot of time the patient will go in, and you can imagine whomever is like listening right now, just right there, that's just the start. They may be like, whoa, that's okay, so I got to find someone to go with me. And a lot of time, especially if you're out in maybe a rural area, maybe a suburban area, things about transportation and getting to the appointment and who's going to take you. Can I work? I'm literally working on some blogs. I just now got back into blogging. I'm getting back now into setting up my YouTube channel. And so primarily I work with veterans and Nexus Letter and things of that nature, but I also do advocacy. And I'm getting back now with AI. I can use that now to do pictorial presentation and keep it less than 10 minutes. So I'm getting a lot of that stuff in line because I feel that there is a voice that I can add that others can learn from in preparation for these appointments. We did some books on Amazon way back when, like started it in 2015 and 2017 for breast cancer and prostate cancer, about the questions to ask. And then there's space that you could write your answers down. I am putting together like animation that you can watch that's less than 5 minutes. So I'm all about, okay, how can I empower patients to advocate for themselves and their loved ones? You're the one that's in charge. Don't feel intimidated by us. We are human, us being physicians. We are human too, and we're here. I'd like to think that we are here to serve, and all my colleagues that are physicians are here to serve you and your listening, your podcast listeners.
Thank you for that. And something I would just like to revisit is when you first stated, do not go to your appointments alone, take someone with you. Understanding how serious and life changing a cancer diagnosis can be, we understand that this could be incredibly sensitive. This is not the time for you to be alone. This is the time for you to reach out to your loved ones and identify who you would like to have to come to your appointments with you. Because having that other person there, they're able to take notes, and they may also be able to ask questions that you hadn't thought about.
And now that you said that, I've had folks done it because I was in the military and I traveled around, there were advocates who joined via the phone. So I've had folks on video on the phone while I'm talking, and I would pause. I've had folks just call in from a whole different state, and I'll try to make the appointment suitable so that they can join in during their lunch break. So there's some flexibility, but your doctor won't know if you don't ask. And sometimes the gatekeepers, they can be very, how can I say this nicely, politically correct, not as understanding. It's like, okay, these are all that's available. Oh, but little Johnny is in construction and only have lunch break at this time and they're 2 hours behind. Is there any way possible? As a physician, we have no idea about that. The gatekeepers are, oh, well, no, there's nothing. Absolutely no. But sometimes you have to push a little and say, can you please ask to accommodate, because I'm here alone. My son is in another state and I really, really want for that person to be on the phone during this time. Is there any way we could get some accommodation? So we don't know if the ask isn't made. Right. And it's the same thing for those who have another language as their primary. Oh my goodness, I have an app on my phone where I could turn it around. So as I speak English, it translated in the next language. And not only do they hear it, they can also see as I'm speaking into my phone. And so that also helped with the communication gap. So there's so many ways, but patients get to be so docile and very shy and afraid. Oh, but as a doctor, I don't want. It's like, no, but it's you. It's your body. You're in charge. Help us help you.
Absolutely. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying to continue to advocate for yourself to ensure that your needs are being met, that your specific needs are being met.
Absolutely, absolutely. And lots of time we'll be more than happy. There's many times I miss lunch or put lunch off to the end of the day because and it doesn't happen all the time. Everyone's diagnosis and position is unique. And my nurse, like I had to let my nurse know, it's like, okay, this is, but after working with the nurses for a few years, they understand who I am. And next thing you know, I schedule or pack. But at the same time, though, we are human and I try to make accommodation that's humanly possible. If I'm totally booked and I'm not able to, I can make accommodation for maybe after I could make accommodation for maybe after the work hour or something. It's not always going to be feasible, but at least ask. That's all I'm saying. At least ask. Give them the opportunity to look into it, and they will accommodate if they can. They being the physicians and the oncology team.
Received. Podcast family, I hope that you have received the information that Dr. CM Williams has just shared with you. It's important to continue to advocate. Don't be afraid. Make sure you bring a loved one so that they can also take notes and so that they can ask questions on your behalf as well. So thank you for that. I'd like to talk more about what you offer because you do offer consulting services.
My consultant services is twofold. So I'm wearing this my military hat here because the veterans, my brother and sister, my brother and sister in arms, that's how I started out initially with advocacy. So as military, the military family, we are asked to do a lot of things. And some of those jobs, we're exposed to toxins. And those toxins can cause cancer later on in life. And so what I do is I work with veterans who have been diagnosed with cancer but have served in the military and have been exposed to certain toxins that can cause that cancer. So there's a nexus. So I'll write independent medical opinion. I'll meet with them like I am now. We'll go over the history. In some cases, I do what's called the DIC, indemnity, for if a veteran had passed away and now their loved one is trying to get the benefit from whatever caused their death, especially if it's cancer that was caused by them being exposed while they're in the military. So I work with veterans specifically in the oncology, in the cancer lane, anyone that's been exposed to toxins, be it radiation, TCE, firefighter foam, whatever it may be, and now they have a cancer. If it's not covered under this new regulation of the PACT Act, or they miss it by a certain time, or if they've been deployed, or if they've drank contaminated water, there's all sorts of stuff that can lead to diagnosis of cancer. I will work with them on improving their case if there's been denied and provide that link. And sometimes it's like 10, 20 pages, just depending on how complicated these cancer cases are. Otherwise, it can be the same veteran or active duty folks, or just anyone if they're diagnosed with cancer. At this time, I started out with just any cancer, but then it became too much. So I took a step back and I'm doing those who are diagnosed with breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, or having to receive palliative radiation if the disease spread elsewhere. So I do consultation for that. It's like a 75-minute consultation, and there is a cost associated. But we go through that. So those are the two arms that I do. It's all under the umbrella of cancer. I try to help out my brother and sister in arm as a veteran myself. And also, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have questions about the cancer diagnosis, if you've seen your physicians and your oncology team already and you just felt like everything was rushed through and you have additional questions and want to know, I don't make decisions for people, but I arm them with the appropriate questions to ask, right? So you take your car into the shop, and because you hear wooga wooga knives, and you said, okay, they said you need to replace XYZ, but they're like, oh, well, you may consider, you may need a new tire soon, right? But you're just like, okay, I wasn't here for that. I can do that another time. So what I'm doing is I'm showing you the things that needs to be done or what quest. I'm not the main person, but I can advocate for you or teach you how to advocate for yourself, because there's a fine line when it comes to being the part of your cancer care team. I want to make sure that it's understood I'm here working for you as an advocate, and I'm not part of the cancer care team. We have to consider liability in the years, in the time that we're living in. But in most cases, I've been able to provide appropriate care and give them the information that they need to take back to their physician, and they're feeling much more empowered. They'll say, okay, now that makes sense. Okay, I understand now why that person is getting chemotherapy for their breast cancer and I'm not. Because even though their tumor was smaller than mine was, even though their tumor was smaller, mine was 2 centimeters, theirs was 1 centimeter, but then they have a spread to the lymph node under their armpit. So theirs was a little bit more advanced because they're starting to travel. Mine was in the breast. So, okay, maybe I don't need that much intense chemotherapy or radiation or whatever. So it's just sitting back, the family-friendly cancer doctor having a chat with you, drawing, using pictures, whatever it may take for you to understand, to advocate for yourself, family member, or loved ones.
In terms of the clients that you accept, do you accept clients all over the US or this area?
While you're under my radiation beam, okay, so you're not going to be my personal radiation beam. While you're under my radiation beam, they'll give you the cream that you need to use on your skin. They'll make recommendation. Now, if you have a friend, because a lot of my friends are white or different Asian, if they use that in the sun to get a better tan, you don't want to use that on your skin while you're getting radiation. Because again, the radiation is on a spectrum of the sun's beam, right? We're just focusing it and concentrating it through physics and all that other stuff. So we can either make it wide enough to treat the area we're treating or make it tiny and more focused to treat a brain lesion, whatever it is. But it's the same concept, if you will. If you keep that in mind, I'm turning a grape into a raisin. I'm treating the breast, so it's more of a larger field, it's fan, but it's the sun, right? And it's just concentrated. And I simplify it by saying it's the sun. So my dear oncology, radiation oncologist colleague, if you're listening, this is for simplification purposes only. Thank you. So then that's just a matter of if you put your breast into the field of the sun and you're getting a sunburn and you're putting cocoa butter, you're just going to burn more. Right? So you don't want that. The reason why they give you the cream in between is that the cream will keep the skin moist and help your skin to heal between treatments as well. And there are so many other little tricks and stuff that comes along with it. Typically back in the day when I started, radiation treatment for the breast was like 25, 30 treatments. Now they're changing it to 5 treatments or sometimes 15. And what I found happening then is that you don't see the skin changes or side effects until after your treatment is done. So if you're not educated and said, oh, well, if this should happen after, or I'll give my patient, like you need to moisturize in the morning and in the evening. And if you're at home and you could do it in between, you do that. Because what it's doing is encouraging turnover at the skin and healing in between your radiation treatment. So again, and I was big on educating my nurses. So my nurse will sit and go through stuff as well. And most of the time, after my nurse is well trained up, I don't have to go into depth because then the nurse knows what I like for skincare, what I do for nausea, what I do if I'm training someone brain, what I do to taper steroids. So it's all about training your nurses and some to assist you so you can have more time with patients. At least that's how it was for me.
Okay, great. Can you share the website?
So the website is very simple. I've broken it down. It's q4cd.com. That's Q is in Quebec, the number 4, C is in Charlie, D is in Delta.com. And that stands for questions for cancerdoctors.com. And we came up with the 4 because you always meet at least 4 doctors in your cancer journey. So it's q4cd.com. When you get to the page, it's going to be mostly for military, but at the very top, there will be a button that says if you're only here for cancer advocacy, click this button and it'll take you to the site for cancer advocacy. But everything is under q4cd.com. Okay.
All right, podcast family. Again, that's q4cd.com. You know how I do it. All of this information that Dr. C.M. Williams has provided will be in the description of this podcast. I ask that if you need this service, you please check this service out, including my UK family. We actually have listeners in the UK as well, because she is available. Dr. C.M. Williams is available in the UK, as she stated, as well as the US and various other countries. So this is a resource that is truly meant to help people who need it, who fit the description that the doctor has just shared with us. If this resonates, if this applies, please do not hesitate to check out this website. One more time, website.
The website is q4cd.com. q4cd.com. Thank you so much, Delisa. You're awesome.
It has been a pleasure having you on Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast, Dr. C.M. Williams. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, podcast family. Until next time.